Following the atrocious attacks on the offices of controversial French magazine Charlie Hebdo last week, David Cameron and other leaders made their requisite speeches of sorrow denigrating the terrorists.
But just as we thought we'd seen the human side of the Cameron-Tron 2000, he used the opportunity to call for increased surveillance powers, not just as a general act of defiance against terrorists, but specific powers he tried to get through a few years ago, but were blocked by the Liberal Democrats.
He was referring to the Draft Communications Bill, which would, among other things, give security services access to encrypted messaging services like WhatsApp and iMessage, and all but remove end-to-end encryption of data entirely. This desire to control internet traffic has been ongoing in statute for over 15 years now, with the introduction of the Regulation of Investigatory Powers, or RIP Act, in 2000, which essentially gave security forces the power to demand decryption of specific data, as well as using clickstreams to monitor not just what sites you visit, but who you're emailing and where they are.
Today we take an essential step in defeating terrorism while protecting the constitutional rights of all Americans.
Less than a year later, and in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks in America, George Bush used executive action to introduce the highly controversial USA Patriot Act. This is in fact an acronym for Uniting and Strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism, which is either the subtitle of the Borat film or widely extended powers for security agencies to detain and arrest people suspected of terrorist activities without charge.
Moving forward, and just a year after the 7/7 attacks in London, the Counter-Terrorism Act 2008 gave UK forces similar powers, where they were now able to detain people for up to 42 days without charge.
These extensions of power essentially gave police and other security forces free rein to arrest and detain people without reason and hold them for extended periods of time, as well as seeing large increases in stop and searches and increased security at airports that many argued were unfairly targeting black and Asian citizens, mainly on the basis that that is exactly what happened.
But these provisions in law aren't just made up for fun. Institutions inherently operate to perpetuate their own existence. The security forces do this by asking for more powers. The industrial military complex agrees because then they get to make more money. Even a conservative estimate sees US Homeland Security spending increase 301% from when the Patriot Act was introduced in 2001 to 2012, with private security firms taking a nice neat wedge of all that money.
Now back to the Draft Communications Bill, nicknamed the Snoopers Charter. In July and November, emergency powers were quietly pushed through Parliament to increase surveillance of communications data. And now the Cameronator wants to all but remove encryption altogether. A move also made by the bastion of freedom of speech, that is China, just 2 years ago. Many corners of the political and business world have attacked this naive stance, as it would essentially render all web data open not just to security forces in the UK, but hackers and other nefarious entities, as well as being an obviously huge step on civil liberties.
A rare occasion that civilians and corporations can come together against a conservative policy. Aww.